Derreck Kayongo's journey from child refugee to fearless visionary is filled with moments of inspiration that make him one of the most popular and authentic speakers on the circuit today. From Africa to Atlanta, with nothing but a dream and tenacity, Kayungo beat the odds, earned an education, became a naturalized U.S. citizen, and has served in leadership roles in some of the world's most respected NGOs since 1994. He has worked with the American Friends Service Committee as Program Director for the Southeast Peace Education Program, joined Amnesty International as the Director of the Southeast Region, and currently serves as Senior Advocacy Coordinator for the Southeast Region with CARE International. He is also a regular columnist with the Huffington Post. In 2009, Kayongo and his wife Sarah started the Global Soap Project, which focuses on repurposing partially used soap from hotels into new soap for needy populations, particularly in Africa. To date, the Global Soap Project produces 30,000 bars of soap per week with capacity to produce over 1 million bars annually, and has been able to donate over 500,000 bars of soap to over 34 countries, some of which include Afghanistan, Iraq, Swaziland, Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, Haiti, and Malawi. Derreck's business acumen was able to attract big corporations like the Hilton Corps, UPS Corps, and the Center for Disease Control onto his board because these businesses saw the value and the brilliance that he brings to the issues that face the poor around the world. Kayongo has been recognized as a 2011 CNN Hero, won the Max Entrepreneurship Award, received the Refugee Services Award, honored by Congressman John Lewis with a Certificate of Congressional Recognition, has been featured in more than 20 news stories and on TV programs such as Fox News and CNN. He's currently writing his autobiography. Please join me in welcoming Derreck Kayongo to Wingate University.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, how is everybody doing? I think I look very cool in this hat. This is the only school that has given me a hat that I really like, because I love fashion and all that good stuff. We're going to do a couple of things today. I'm going to tell you my story, and then after that, we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A, and then end with an African song, okay? There's no way I can live without teaching you an African song. We sing for everything. When we die, we sing. When we are born, we sing. When we plant, we sing. So I'll teach you an African song, and that, I'm told, is going to be about 5 hours, African time. Okay. So, and then we can end. Is that fair? Okay, very good. In 1979, my parents and I woke up to an incredible experience. We had gunshots out of our apartment, and my dad looked out, and there were a couple of soldiers surrounding the village, at which point the soldier with an AK-47 shot up a couple of rounds and said in Swahili, which is an amalgam of Bantu languages and Arabic, "Get out of your apartments right now, get out." And my dad knew we were in trouble and said, well, get whatever you can, let's go. And as we got to the roundabout station where they were actually collecting everybody, we realized that the whole village had literally been surrounded by soldiers. And on a rostrum with a bullhorn, this very well-decorated soldier came up to the bullhorn, to the stage and said, "Last night, 2 of my soldiers were killed, and I'm here to find out who did it. What we're going to do is we're going to have a firing squad until somebody tells us what happened." We were aghast at this accusation because we knew very quickly that, this was uncivilized. If there's a crime that is committed in any society, what do? You have an investigation, and you figure out what happened. You don't surround the whole village and decide to have a firing squad. But to no avail, he picked people at random. 1, 2, 3, 4, come up. And as they brought those up, we were sort of wondering what was going on. They brought them to the front. He asked the question again, who killed these 2 soldiers last night? And he pulled out his pistol and shot all 4 at the spot. The cacophony and the noise that came out of that was unbelievable. Mothers screaming, kids, everybody was disorganized because we knew we were in trouble. All of a sudden, he yells up again in the bullhorn and says, "Be quiet. Tell me who did this last night. Be quiet." And as we all kind of quiet down, he picks up another 4. As he points at people, 1, 2, 3, 4 neighbors start to point to each other because they know what is going to happen. No, he didn't pick me, he picked you. And as they fight over each other, they bring up another 4. He asks the question again, and to no avail, he shoots all 4 of them. At that point, we knew this is not going to be a good day. Because then, all of a sudden, we realized we're in for a long, long haul. As he starts to pick up another 4, a young man rose up his hand and said he had committed a crime. We all knew he was lying because he was a visitor in the village, and we knew that he was just new to this village. And as they brought him up, there was a little bit of cacophony and banter and a little bit of yelling, and the next thing I knew, he had been shot. And that began, for me, an incredible journey in my life. I want you to take that little piece of story and park it for a second, because who was Derreck before that? Before that, I was not born on that day. I lived another life. I was a young man, originally Ugandan. Who knows where Uganda is? And don't say Africa, please. Because that's like me saying, where's Pennsylvania? Saying, in the States. You know, it's in East Africa, correct? It's a little small country, if I can get, there it is. Oh, you guys saw it when they were trying to doctor it around. But that's Uganda. Uganda is a beautiful country. We have very, very interesting people. Ugandans are very, excited people. They get excited very easily. But they're tall and handsome too, just so you know that. We pride ourselves in the River Nile. We think we're the source of the Nile. Ethiopians also think they're the source of the Nile, but they're not here to defend themselves, so forget about it. So the White Nile, the Blue Nile, we are where Lake Victoria is. We share that lake with two other countries, Kenya and Tanzania. And we also were prideful about our journey out of independence into our new hands of leadership. We were so proud. My parents were teachers, and they decided very quickly that teachers don't get paid very well. I don't know about the US. I don't know how you guys get to pay your teachers here. But in Uganda, they don't pay them very well. So anyway, my parents decided they were going to become social entrepreneurs. And my mother decided to become a seamstress. She made wedding gown dresses. I joke all the time that she didn't have a flower girl mannequin dress thingies. So guess who the mannequin was? Me. I'm used to dressing. I've been a cross-dresser since I was 5. That's really funny. Is that funny? This is how African mothers punish their kids, So I was used to putting on all weird kind of colors and all that good stuff, and she became very good at what she did. She built something, the equivalent of a David's bridal. For those of you who are not married yet, you'll get to hear that name very soon. But she did very well and became very well-to-do. On the other hand, my dad became a soap maker, something we're going to come back to later on. And so you had these 2 parents that taught me how to do business from a very young age. And they did so well, and yet in a flash, their lives had to crumble as the country went through a war. Idi Amin, those of you who watched the movie The Last King of Scotland, was a brutal man that came into power and just decimated the hopes that we had as a country. So we moved from being very preppy, because I was very, very preppy and came from a very wealthy background, not like the American sense of wealth, because you guys are too wealthy for me, but in our little wealth of little Uganda, to then becoming a refugee. And so that incident that I just told you, the firing squad incident, I was 10 years old, about that age. So I moved from Uganda very quickly to become a refugee in Kenya. Can you imagine the change and contrasts? I got into Kenya. If you've never been to Kenya, Kenya is a beautiful country. My mom and dad, who I can show you, this is me being preppy. That's my dad had a little boat, and that's Lake Victoria, that's my parents, my mom and dad. That's me. My mom just pinched my back, and so I'm trying to stand up straight. You're supposed to say, oh. Anyway, so I left this to become a refugee in Kenya. In Kenya, I was put in the hands of an American woman from Pittsburgh. If you've never met women from Pittsburgh, you should meet them. They're crazy. Pittsburgh girls are tough as nails. What do they call them? The Steelers. What do they call them? The dirty what? Is it the dirty towel, the yellow towel? The terrible towel. That was Marge, tough. When I met Marge, she was an incredible woman. She taught me how to drink things. The day I think I met her, she had iced tea. And so I sat down, and because I was very preppy and British in my mindset, she gave me the iced tea. I tasted the iced tea, and I put it right back down because I thought she forgot to cook it. So she looks at me, she goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "Well, you forgot to boil the tea." She goes, "Honey, that is American iced tea." I'm like, okay. Americans are contrarian like that. Huh? They take all the things that the British did and turn them into something else. So if it was what? Football, what do you guys call soccer? It's soccer? No. You guys run with the ball. You know, that's not soccer. That's not football, okay? If it's cricket, what do you guys play? Baseball. Because Americans are contrarian like that. So she gave me what they call, you guys call them cookies? Well, we used to what? Biscuits. You know what Americans do with biscuits? They give them to their dogs, you know? It's just crazy. So Marge was a crazy woman. She was unbelievable, but she was really good. But she ushered me into this American culture, and then I got a chance to finally come to the U.S. to go to school. When I came to the U.S. Is a big country. I mean, it's really, really a continent in my view. You know, it's huge. And it was so big, I didn't know what to do with myself. In fact, I remember we were a bunch of African guys that showed up at the airport, and we all had to go to the bathroom, you know. So we go to the bathroom, and this guy from Zaire at the time, now it's called the DRC, checked into the American male bathrooms are really different from our bathrooms. You guys have weird bathrooms here. So as he sat down, guess what the bathroom did? It flushed automatically. He jumped out of the bathroom and said, "Oh my God," in our mother tongue, you know, it's very funny. He said, "God of Poseidon, please do not swallow my behind." And we are all like, what happened in there? What's going on in there? And we were shocked at this. In fact, when we were done, we didn't know how to, there were no, what do you call them, faucets, you know, like the little handles. We kind of looked around and we didn't know they were laser beam kind of things. So every time we bent down to look for, the water would come out. And we would be like, oh my goodness, because Americans are contrarian like that, yeah? So we came into this country, very excited about the country. It was really lovely to be here. And then we went to our hotel. In the hotel, there were, you know, beautiful linens, and it was so clean and nice and, you know, bougie, in my view. And so I get in there, and I'm checking out the hotel room, and I go to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, they have 3 bars of soap. Hand washing soap, facial soap, and body soap. Who does that? Why? Because now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my dad made soap all these years and I didn't know there was soap for every part of your body, you know? Because we use soap for everything. Where's now the foot soap, the ear soap? So I'm looking around, I'm thinking, wow, this is not true. This cannot be true. Then I pull back the curtain for the shower and there's what there? Shampoo, in case you have nappy hair like I do, you know? So I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good country. This is going to be a really good country. So I take the 2 bars, because I know Americans are not right, okay? Put them in my bag for another day. So I store the soap. That evening, what do? As Laura Dan just mentioned, they replaced the soap. But I'm African. I would steal the heck out of that soap. So I take those 2 bars, put them in my bag. For about 3 days, I'm stealing soap, okay? And I'm happy about it. But then one day I'm thinking, you know what? They probably think I have a lot of money. They're going to charge me for it. So I realized, oh my God, I don't have that kind of money. So I collect all the stolen soaps and the shampoos, take them to the concierge downstairs. He was an African-American guy clad in, you know, regalia, you know, concierge. Now, if you've never met African-Americans, you should meet them. They're crazy. Okay? I was dying to meet African Americans because my only experience with African Americans at the time was through the movie Coming to America, Eddie Murphy. That was my boy. Oh my God. Eddie Murphy is the best African American in the whole world, okay? That is the man, okay? So I was dying to, you know, say, yo, what's up, brother? I was dying to say that, you know? So I'm there, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. So I walk up to him with my little stolen goods, you know, I'm like, what's up, man? He says, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? So I said, hey, look, I have to tell you something. I have been stealing your soap. He says, what? Like from housekeeping? I said, no. You keep on bringing me soap in the room, and I keep on stealing it. But I realize you guys are going to charge me for it. So please take it back to housekeeping. Tell them not to charge me for it. So I wink at him, and he's like, he burst out laughing. He said, man, are you African, man? Are you Nigerian? Because, you know, we're all Nigerians, yeah? We're the ones that send you that email that says, you know, my father just passed away. left me with $1 billion, give me your account, and Americans actually give us the account, you know? Because Americans are contrarian like that, you know? But no, I told him, no, I'm not Nigerian, but I'm African. Yes, that's true. And I said to him, he says, hey, look, man, you see these Americans over here, man, they steal soap too, so you're good, brother. So he's laughing and I'm laughing, we're teasing around, and I said, but wait a minute, what about the partially used bar of soap? What do you do with that? He says, we throw those out, because, come on. I said, what? I said, you use it once and you throw it out? He says, yeah, we throw it out. I said, this hotel or every hotel in the U.S.? He says, no, every hotel in the U.S. throws away the soap. Man, I paused for a minute, and all of a sudden, my whole universe came collapsing. Because now, the epiphany has just happened. I'm the child of a man that made soap and did very well with that. And then I was the child of a man that got into a war and saw mothers give birth to children with midwives who didn't have soap to wash their hands, and they got childbed fever and killed them in 2 weeks. I saw the need for soap as a refugee. And now here I am in a country that does this, throws away soap. Did you know that this country throws away about 800 million bars of soap every year from the hotel industry complex? That is 2.6 million bars of soap every single day. Today, 2.6 million bars of soap are going to be thrown away. In juxtaposition, we have 2 million kids globally that are sick and are dying of diarrheal diseases, waterborne diseases globally. And so here I was caught in between these two worlds, a conundrum that I figured, oh my goodness, that's why I came to the United States. The universe has now brought me here to think about this particular situation. Because we're very, very spiritual in that sense, I was able to identify myself with this particular thing, and all of a sudden said, you know what, I'm going to start an organization to recycle soap and take it back home. So I called my dad, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to recycle soap. They throw away so much soap. And he said, great, good for you. But like with all kids, we all get excited about stuff, and then we forget about stuff. So you guys get excited about a business plan or something like that, and you're like, oh my God, we're going to do this. Then you forget about it, because then America became too interesting for me, yeah? I finished school, I got a little bit of an internship, went to DC, worked a little bit, then I bought a BMW. BMW, man, I was jamming. Then I bought a house. Oh my God, this is good. So I called my dad after a couple of years. I say, hey Dad, he's like, how is the US going? I say, man, it is a good country, man. I have a BMW, I have a house, and you know what? I think I'm going to buy a Range Rover too. Man, the silence, crickets, is that what you guys say? I had crickets on the other side. And I said, Dad, are you there? He says, yeah, I'm here. I said, what's wrong? You should be happy, no? He says, Derreck, what happened? I said, to what? He says, to recycling soap and to giving back to the universe and what you're called for. I said, I mean, we'll get to that, but I got to drive a Range Rover, I got to, come on, man. A brother's got to do something with that stuff, And he's like, wow. You know what, Derreck? Nobody that I know of has ever gotten a Nobel Peace Prize for driving a Range Rover. Nobody that I know of has ever been celebrated in your village, at home, for driving a BMW. You have totally forgotten why we sent you to the States to go to school. We sent you over there to learn how to solve global problems. Your villages are decimated, and you're driving Range Rovers. Good luck. My gut was in pain. And so I pulled back, and I remembered that the reason why I was here was not to really be part of the consumption, but to really solve consumption. And so I went back, got rid of my Range Rover idea, my BMW, and I bought a Ford truck, and I started the Global Soap Project. And for the first time, my life meant something to everybody globally. And so the question is, how do you recycle soap? The first thing I did was to buy potato peelers, You know how to peel a potato? Volunteers everywhere. everybody came in, and I said this thing. I was so excited. My son was the first jokester in the whole group. Oh my goodness, soap recycling. Ooh, that is not cool, Dad. He made fun, because Americans make fun of everything. He's an American. He was cracking jokes on me, and I said, Kevin, watch this. We're going to make something out of this. So he asked me, how do you recycle soap? So here are the steps in recycling soap. The first thing we do is we peel the soap. That's what you use in the hotel. Then we get to the inside layer of the soap. And then the second thing we do is then we crush it, okay? So what you're going to see here, well, those are my volunteers. I'm going to move you to a few slides here. So that's crushing it. We crush it with the machine, and we have what we call a powder form, okay? That's like a laundry detergent form. And then after we do that, I'm going to take you back here for a second, if I can. We then zip it up in Ziploc bags, big bags, and then sort of store it away for about a week or two. What are we doing? We're starving the germs, okay? We are keeping that soap dehydrated rather, and clean. And then after 2 weeks, we sort of reawaken it. We add a little bit of moisture. In fact, that's my little technology. That's like a little concrete mixture. That's Derreck thinking. Add a little bit of water, and we turn it into a feta cheese texture. You guys have had feta cheese. It's kind of sticky, like a kind of thing. Why? Because then we're going to be able to heat it up in the machine and warm it up and then compress it together, and out is going to come a full bar of soap, okay? Because you can't really compress it and keep it together if it's so dry, yeah? So you need that little bit of water in there. And then we compress it, it comes out of the machine, and then looks something like that, okay? That is 1 day's work. These are students from University of Michigan that came to visit with us. They drove their big van on spring break, came to ATL. We partied like crazy. They said, we partied like rock stars. Yeah, that's what they said. We partied like rock stars, but then made soap, a lot of soap. And then after we do this, then we pack it. Yeah, you gotta see. You see me? That's Derreck. I look good, man. So now we have the boxes. So we're creating what they call a batch. Okay? In science, in production, in manufacturing, you create batches because if something is infected, you can trace back the soap to that batch. Okay? So when we create a batch, then we are ready to ship. But before we do that, we take a sample of every batch and we ship it to Cincinnati to a lab to test for pathogens. About 12 pathogens we're looking for, okay? To make sure they're not infected, because the FDA won't let you to really ship around different diseases. So once we know we have a clean batch of soap, then we know we're ready to ship, okay? Now this is a full container, a 40-foot container, which has about 160,000 bars of soap. So we are now shipping, these are my brothers, we're going to ship it to Haiti, Africa, all these countries. This particular batch was going to Kenya, and we also had Liberia. Liberia has just gone through Ebola. Are you guys familiar with that, yeah? Soap is a very big thing with Ebola. It's about cleanliness, okay? So then you get to Africa. That's me in Africa. So I don't know about American mamas, but in Africa, mamas are different. How do you say thank you here in America? American mamas, what do you guys say when somebody gives you a gift? Oh, what do you say again? Oh, thank you. So African mamas are different, okay? When you give an African mama a gift, they first look at you and they're kind of shy, and then they go, you are welcome. And they dance, and then when you're lucky, they want to marry you. And if they can't marry you, then they give you their daughter to marry them. So I have a lot of wives globally, and I'm willing to have a wedding today if you guys want to get married as well. So these are their daughters that I'm going to marry, okay? They've lined up and they're dancing, and it's a school. This is an orphanage that was started by an American young lady from Alabama. She actually got infected in Kisumu, this is Kisumu, and died while she was there. And so this orphanage was really special to me, but also it was special to me because it's in Kenya, and that's where I was a refugee, okay? So this was really, really important to me. So, but one of the things we do once we get there and we give them the soap, it's not enough to give them soap. You also have to do what? Teach them how to wash their hands. And so this particular area is really cool because, Obama's dad comes from Kisumu, for those that part of the world. And so the kids are teasing me and they're asking me, I'm going to show you here really quickly. We are going to have dinner, lunch. And they're asking me, they're really, really serious. How is Obama doing? Is he doing well? And they're talking politics. And I'm like, no, but you need to talk about soap. And they're like, no, how about Obama? And so they were so excited about this very serious conversation there, okay? big man conversation. But what I was doing, I was teaching them the power of soap, that if you wash your hands, boys in particular don't wash their hands. They're notorious for not washing their hands. And so, and not just African boys, but boys all around. So it's the same thing. You go to American restaurants and they have a little sign that says what? All employees do what? The rest of you don't have to. Who came up with that? But Americans are contrarian like that, okay? So here we are talking about soap because we have to also teach them how to wash their hands, okay? And so I wanted to show you the map of where we've given the soap. That's where we've been. We're in about 34 countries around the world. And the power of this whole story is going to come to you in 3 phases. Number 1, I want you to understand the power of environment and events around you, things that are happening to you on a daily basis. If you're in tune with your universe, you realize that these things don't happen in a vacuum. Things are happening to you because the universe is sort of talking to you about what your relevance is globally. And so for me, it was being a refugee that really knocked on my door, and my father being able to remind me of that. Number 2 is expertise. It's not enough to be passionate about things, because people ask me all the time, how did you start this Global Soap project? How did you do this? And I say to the group before that I got $1.3 million to build a factory, and I walked into Hilton and they gave me $1.3 million. How? Because I made logical sense in how I did that. But number 3 that I want you to think about is being able to develop networks that make sense. At school, here right now, you have friends that will make sense 10 years from now. These are people who are high achievers that make a lot of sense. But you also have professors that are very, very intelligent at what they do. I befriended those 2 groups of people. So people ask me all the time, I don't have a network to do what you guys did. Well, I didn't either. And I'm African. I came here and built this. But you know what I did? I spent most of my time making networks that make sense, that helped me build this kind of thing. So for me, it was a woman called Vicky Gordon. I met this one woman, drew a little bit of my idea on a napkin. What Americans draw their ideas at Starbucks, yeah? That's where usually you guys create stuff. So I went to Starbucks, drew the idea. I said to her, what do you think? She said, let's do it. That kind of networking and friendship is what you need to build big things. So as you go through school, think about those 3 things, okay? The events that have happened in your life that inspire you, because as you do your work, if you're not inspired, you're never going to stay and do good work. You're not going to be passionate about what you're doing. You don't want to have purpose. Use an event that can inspire you into doing something remarkable. Number 2, think about, your expertise. What are you building? What are you good at? Don't just do things because you think you can do it, but do it because you know you are really good at it and nobody can beat you up. And my example here is my son. He's a 15-year-old young man. He's 6'4", plays basketball, plays piano. He wakes up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning by himself, takes a shower, goes downstairs, plays piano for about 30 minutes, finishes that, goes to the gym, shoots around for about, an hour, and then goes to class. I hate this kid. Who does that? But you know what? When I talked to him about being self-disciplined, I didn't know that he really took it seriously. He really does take it seriously. Now, can you imagine competing with a kid like that? It's very, very hard to compete with people who have determination and have passion for something. So if you don't have that, it's going to be very hard for you to apply yourself in an exceptional way, which is what I write about all the time. And then lastly, I'm telling you, building those networks. When I was in college, we used to play around a lot, pubbing and all that stuff. What do they call it? Pub crawling or whatever they call it. And then I realized very quickly, these guys are not going to help me. So I had to join another group that really can help me. Spend time building those groups that can really help you, and your professors are one of those people. So I'm going to stop here, and then we can do some Q&A. And then after that, we'll do the African song, okay? And then I'll tease you a little bit about that, okay? So why don't we deflate and then do some Q&A, okay? Yeah, you want to walk around with it? Okay. Oh, we have one over there. An overzealous lady. That's an African mama, so be careful.
First, I want to say thank you for sharing your story, and I can relate to it because I come from a refugee family. Mm-hmm. I was born in the refugee camp in Ghana, and my family relocated from Liberia. So thank you for sharing that. It inspired me.
You're very welcome.
I want to ask, kind of, were you hesitant about starting this company, and what were you hesitant about?
I was hesitant about a couple of things. Number one was I was so drawn into the idea of being in the U.S., and I thought that a traditional life, you go, you get married, you get a job, and you work from 9 to 5, and then you die. That's a good thing, yeah? But then I realized that I didn't have, my soul was not being fed. I didn't feel challenged. And every day I would wake up and I'd say, my goodness, I feel like I can do more. Do you ever feel that way, like, this is not enough? So people who feel that way and follow up on that feeling are the ones that actually can do stuff that we are talking about. So, but I was hesitant because I had a very, very interesting accent, yeah? Right now you're seeing me with my little accent. It's a little bit nice and fancy, yeah? Back in the day, it was really African, eh? Hey, what's up, man? What are you doing? My son teases me a lot about that. So how do you morph into somebody that people can understand and can identify with? Number two was a big one. How do you really develop a strategy around your idea? And you can communicate that to people and they can follow you. You have to have charisma. So I had to build charismatic energy because people don't want to follow somebody who is boring and, oh my God, I have an idea. No. Americans love what? Excitement. Hey, what's up, man? They will follow. Lastly, I really had to, feel that what I was doing was important. You have to make sure that what you're doing is going to really be important. So once I figured out that what I was doing is important, I didn't care what people said. So whether people thought soap could not be recycled or could be recycled, that was their own fault. But I felt it in my spirit. I felt it in my heart that this is really, really important. And so now, everybody thinks it's important. So you have to be convinced about your thing for us to follow you. If we think you're not convinced about what you care about, then we're not going to follow you. So be convinced, be convinced, be convinced that what you're doing is important and it really matters to everybody. And that's what I did.
George, my question is, when you first started your business, what are some challenges that you had to overcome to be successful?
The challenges. The first thing that I had to overcome was self-confidence. You know how you get an idea, but you sort of fear? You have this fear that are people going to believe what I'm saying and do they really care? That was the number big challenge. I took that challenge and thought about my son that I just talked about. Kevin, side of basketball, he was tall, he was lengthy and good, but he didn't know anything about basketball. When we put him in basketball, he sat for a year on the bench. For a whole year. He never complained a single day. But the whole time, I asked him, how do you feel? He said, oh, Dad, I'm learning. I said, don't you feel bad that you're not playing? He said, no, because I'm not ready yet. Can you imagine? A whole year, these kids. So I learned from that myself. I said, my goodness, maybe I need to really pay attention and learn. So for the first 10 years of my life, I spent building my skill. I worked for NGOs, I worked for CARE, I worked for Amnesty. I really understood how Americans build NGOs. So when I built my NGO, it was based on that solid understanding. So when I went to build the board, I brought UPS on the board very quickly because of my networking skill that I had learned. Hilton came on board very quickly because I learned how to network with them. And very quickly, Center for Disease Control was on board as well. So by learning the skill set that I had, it took away that fear of lack of confidence. And then lastly, the biggest thing I had to overcome was how do you take that product to 35 countries, 34 countries? How do you do that? But I had to be very clever in everything that I did. So for example, when I went to ask for $1.3 million, do you know how hard it is to get $1.3 million from a corporation? You can't just say, oh, I'm a former refugee, please give me money. Oh my God, please help me. That's not an argument in business. But what I did is I figured out how much soap was being thrown away by hotels. And I weighed it in terms of mathematics. And I asked the waste management company, how much does it cost to throw away that amount of weight based on how many people came through the hotels? And guess what? It was about $1.3 million. So when I went back to the hotel to say, if you give me that $1.3 million, you plow that back into your revenue stream because I'm a nonprofit. You can claim it as a tax deduction. But also, you can then do what? Give me the money to build a factory to solve the problem of you throwing away soap. So that's kind of the logic that I had to come over and bring over to the marketplace for them to agree with me to give me the $1.3 million. So the fear of self, the fear of others, and the lack of discipline, those are things that I had to overcome. Most of you will find that if you don't have self-discipline, you won't do this. This is impossible. Self-discipline is self-taught. You can't actually go and borrow it from somebody and say, can I borrow your self-discipline? You have to be self-disciplined. So by me taking that Range Rover and BMW back, you should have seen me crying. I was like, oh my God. To get a Ford pickup to do what? To carry soap. That is self-discipline, and sacrifice is very important. So those are the things I had to sort of overcome together. Can we get that gentleman, then a lady? I need ladies. Mamas.
What would you say is your vision going forward with the Global Soap Project? Like, what do you see for the future? What's next?
The vision is actually very interesting. We are in the process of merging with our competitor called Clean the World. We are going to be bigger. We will have a bigger footprint by merging together. But for me personally, I have two things that I'm working on right now that are important to me. One is the plastic bottles. Remember the little plastic bottles, the shampoos with the lotion and the conditioner? Those are also being thrown away. What do we do with those? Especially the content of the product that is in the shampoo bottles and all that stuff. So my goal is to take the plastics, figure out a way to reuse them. So for example, we can use them as plastic plates, forks and all the other stuff. But the shampoo, we can turn it into a floor cleaner, yeah? And then get a revenue stream out of that. So I want to really take the hotel bathroom and turn it into a footprint that is non-existent, so that we have the soaps being recycled and given to the right people, and we have the plastics, rather than throwing away those into the environment, turning them into a product that the American market can appreciate and say we're giving back that way. So that's really where I'm going. Then the second thing is I'm writing my book, as you had. So hopefully I'll finish that book and do another comeback and we can talk about bigger things. So that's what I'm working on right now. I need a mama. Ladies, don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Who's next?
Very good.
Which hotels actually participate in your soap?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Which hotels actually give you soap?
Which hotels? So we have all kinds of brands. We have about 1,500 hotels right now. When we merge with Clean the World, I think we'll have over about 3,000 to 4,000 hotels that participate. The largest influx of hotels that work with us are in Vegas, where there's a lot of sin soap. Americans go there to sin. So we have all that soap recycled. So we have a factory there that recycles soap there. We also have a place in Orlando where our partner is based, and that's a lot of Disney soap, where Americans then become very nice and playful. So we have Mickey Mouse soap this way, and we have Vegas soap this way. We also have a partner in Hong Kong that is recycling soap there. They're called Soap Cycling, that is doing some good work there. And we're getting ready to think about Rome, Italy as another destination for the Europeans to give us soap. So we're in the process of expanding that way. But altogether, we have about 4,000 hotels as an aggregate, and all kinds. Yeah. Yes.
So with the right voice that you have on your map, do you have contacts in those countries, or do you, for the most part, just send the soap there to certain villages or schools or anything like that? Now, what's your plan for sending it out?
That's a very good question, because my fear when I first started this, in fact, are you guys familiar with Freakonomics? Anybody know what Freakonomics is? So I was a big point of discussion on Freakonomics. Am I taking Western soap or trash and trashing the global south? And the idea was the same thing that you see with used clothing. When you go to Africa, to Latin America, and South Asia, there's a lot of used clothing, which has decimated in most parts of these countries the textile industry. So my fear was that if I did that approach, I would destroy the local market with soap that I brought in from the US. So no, we don't do that. What we do is we work with partners So all these red dots are based on partnerships. So you have Partners in Health, for example, as one of them. You have Care International. You have World Vision. Are you guys familiar with World Vision? You have the UN. We have the Center for Disease Control. All these organizations have a program called the Water and Sanitation Program, which is called WASH. That is a program that scientifically can bring in soap into the community, measure and monitor what the behavior was before the soap came in, and then once our soap comes in, we can then track the improvement in behavior around soap washing and all that stuff. And then we can track the level of diseases falling. A good example is Malawi, where we took a bunch of soap and changed the dynamic of a village, a whole village, and dropped the diarrhea infection rates by 90%. So that kind of approach is what you see in these red dots. It's very, very well measured, very, very calculated. It's not in the marketplace. The soap is not in the marketplace. In fact, we don't have a name for the soap at all. It has to go into these little packages that are given out in schools, in hospitals, and that way we can track the progress of the soap. Yeah.
So I lived last year in Malawi, and so when you go through a country like that, do you go to certain parts of different cities, or do you let your data kind of tell you where you head?
It's the data that tells you where. So we have these are maps that are drawn for us where we see an infection rate that has spiked or gone down or that kind of thing. So we know where to apply the soap. So if you go into Lilongwe, for example, that's a capital city. You know, that's not as bad as, let's say, what you see in other smaller towns. So you go to Blantyre, and when you pass those two big cities, you're looking at villages that can have an infection. So recently they had a big flood, huge flood that really messed up everything. When you have a flood like that, you get things like cholera, typhoid, and all that stuff. Usually sanitation becomes a big deal at that point. So that's what we do, is we track human-made catastrophes and natural-made catastrophes. So in Haiti, for example, when the catastrophe happened with the earthquake, we knew that tetanus was going to go up, cholera was going to go up, typhoid was going to go up. So we tracked that, and we sent the soap to that particular emergency. So we're mainly emergency-driven. We have introduced a new program, which is a microfinance program, where we'll give a box of soap to a mama to go sell into the market. She makes a little bit of money, and then comes and buys more and becomes much more self-efficient. That is a much more stable society that we're trying to build. So we're doing microfinance on one end, as well as the catastrophe that we see out there. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. So it's well programmed. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, so from a business aspect, do you think that there's more opportunity that lies in social entrepreneurship nowadays? So if you think, in the United States, there's every product basically under the sun that's been invented. But when you look at just what you've done, all the wasted resources that we have, going over to, Africa or any, third world countries. So do you think we're kind of headed towards a more social entrepreneurship based?
Yeah, your generation is headed that way. When you go to Harvard or when you go to Stanford, all the students at Stanford and Harvard and all the other schools, including your school, are really looking at ways they can crack the code in between poverty, what we call poverty-stricken communities, and the opportunities in there. For example, cell phones. Most people say Africans can't afford cell phones. But guess what? They're the biggest users of what? Cell phones. Big users of cell phones. Why? Because they didn't have landlines. There are no landlines because the society had not enough infrastructure to actually have landlines. So a cell phone, a fisherman from Lake Victoria can call his friend in Kampala, which is the main city, and say, hey, how much fish should I catch? And the guy will say, oh, catch this amount because they don't have refrigeration. Before they would just catch as much fish and then come to the marketplace without knowing what the marketplace wanted, and their fish would go to waste. So these are small cracks that you see that are needed for you to be entrepreneurship driven. You've got to see those cracks. Read a lot about these economies that are growing and you see the cracks. I'll give you a good example. I gave a talk in California not too long ago, and there was a young lady in the audience. And after my talk, you know what she did? She went, because I told her to pay attention to the environment. Pay attention to the environment. You see the opportunities. She went to an American restaurant, and do you know what they do when you go with a kid in an American restaurant? What do they give them to play with? Say? Crayons. But did you guys know that after you leave, what do they do with the crayons? They throw them out. Brand new crayons. So guess what? She has come up with a program to recycle what? Crayons. She recycles 100 million crayons every year. Can you imagine we throw 100 million crayons are out there to be recycled. And now, school districts, even in America, that don't have crayons, the young kids are getting crayons. So I say that to say to you that if you pay attention to what is going on around you, you will see the opportunities. But if you relax, you won't see it. So there's a lot of opportunity out there that is unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, a lot of opportunity. Yes, Mama.
Okay, how often do you go with the shipments that you send? And a lot of times when businesses grow, things get really impersonal. So what do you do to keep it personal and close to your heart?
That's a very good question, and a tough one for me too, because as we've merged, the question is, how often do I go back to see the soap delivered and all that good stuff? I no longer go as much, because I think what the culture is that as you become a bigger guy, you become too big to actually go deliver soap and all that stuff. They put you on a speaking tour like this one. I'm much more of a Pied Piper now. I speak to universities, to corporations, and sort of show them the importance of this work. So that's what I'm really doing, and I think it's really, really important. As I've met students and corporations, I have seen more opportunity that we can use to do plastics, for example. So yes, I wish I could go back more and be on the ground, but we've hired people to do that. In terms of what keeps me inspired, what keeps me inspired is very simple. Every time you hear the word, it's not doable, it's impossible, I fear, I walk in these hallways of schools and I hear young people say that they fear. Oh my goodness, that is the worst. You're too young to start fearing right now. When you're 70, yeah, you should fear a lot because you're done. That's done, that's over. But when you're 18, you can't fear that. You should take on everybody. You should be David against Goliath immediately. So that is my biggest inspiration, to come here and tell you guys that, you know what, you are young and you're ready for the big things. And lastly, I usually relate to this one thing. My father told me something interesting. There are big stories and there are small stories. Both can be important. But if you really want to be in the big story narrative, you've got to really step up and be big, okay? You've really got to be big. It reminds us of chickens back at home in Africa, that when the male chicken is going to fight, he could be a small little chicken, but he lifts up his head and he's doing this, and there's a dog in front of him. But you've got to pretend it, be strong. Seem like you can do it, because then everybody will help you out. That's what keeps me inspired. Every time I've said I need help, people come and help. But if you think nobody's going to help you, nobody will help you. That is what you guys should remember. Be inspired by yourself looking at your environment. I'll go back to the environment and looking at things that are needed and apply yourself. And lastly, to that question, which I enjoy very much, I don't fear to fail. I love failure. I just wrote about this in a book that is coming up with Deepak Chopra. Are you guys familiar with Deepak Chopra? He and I and a couple of other guys have written a book, and they asked me to talk about failure. How do you use failure to actually achieve things? And I said, it's very simple. Ask every scientist in the room. Every time a disease comes that they don't know anything about, every day they study it and try something, they fail. But every time they fail, what do? They learn something new about the disease. That's the way you should fail. Try it. Fail, but then say, what happened there? What can I learn from that? Then try it again. Fail, and then try it again. Fail. That's how entrepreneurship works, through failing and learning, failing and learning, and then you get it.
Okay, we're going to stop our questions and answers right there. But I will say that Derreck has agreed to stay with us, and we're going to have a little reception and some food afterwards. So if you'd like to meet him and ask a personal question, you can certainly do that. But I'm going to turn it back over to you, Derreck, first.
All right, let's stand and do the song. This is the African approach to... Wow, what a beautiful evening this has been, to spend it with you guys and to talk real business. Now, African music is very simple. Here are the rules. If you can't sing, keep it low, okay? We love you. Just don't happy fit us don't do that. Secondly, it's repetitive, okay? So I'm going to sing one part, and I'll teach you that part, sing that part alone, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a little bit of curry powder, onion, sugar, a little bit of that to liven up the music, okay? Don't get hoodwinked by me putting in curry powder, okay? So, for example, here's the song. If I say, moyoni, moyoni, nimempata Bwana, moyoni. That's all you sing, okay? If I say, don't say what? Don't get hoodwinked by my sounds, okay? That's a word, okay? If I say, I'm just putting a little bit of curry powder. Don't wait. And then lastly, if you sing the song, be like Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was known for carrying that voice and that air, okay? It's like swimming. You go in 1, 2, 3, and then you come up for what? For air. So when you're singing the song, don't sing, moyoni, because we are gone. And then you jump in and then ruin the whole thing, okay? And then we'll all be like, really? Stop it. So the song is very simple. The tune is, moyoni, moyoni, nimempata Bwana, moyoni. So read my lips like one of your presidents said, okay? Moyoni, moyoni, nimempata. Be careful with that word. Nimempata Bwana moyoni. And here's the tune. Listen one more time. Moyoni, moyoni, nimempata Bwana moyoni. Yeah? Now, when we do that, don't sing like an Episcopalian priest. I'm Episcopalian. I know about these people, okay? We're not comatose in here, and I know about American students. You guys can move a little bit, okay? So just be relaxed. Just a little bit of movement. That way you can let the voice come up with full vigor. Huh? So are you ready to start? Can we try one? Just a little. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Moyoni, moyoni, nimempata Bwana moyoni. I can hear some good stuff coming in there, okay? Good job, Wingate. Okay, I get it, okay. So now give me some volume. Don't fear, okay? Give me some volume. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Moyoni, mempata. Good. Moyoni, hey, moyoni, mempata Bwana. Moyoni mwangu, moyoni mwangu, moyoni baba, mempata Bwana. Tikoshe aye, tikoshe aye, mempata Bwana. Mempata Bwana. Moyo, nimempata Bwana, moyoni mwangu, moyoni baba, nimempata Bwana, moyoni. Shukran. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.